Last weekend, both the University of Toledo and Bowling Green's men's basketball teams took to the court wearing warm-up shirts designed to educate the basketball community about a landmark game. It's a story 78 years in the making. Basketball fans may have noticed numerous colleges and high school teams wearing "This game is no secret" warm-up shirts recently, in reference to a seminal basketball game in North Carolina.
The secret game was a game that should have never happened. During the height of segregation in North Carolina in 1944, an African-American varsity college basketball team played the first integrated college ball game in the South against an all-white team from Duke University. This went against law, it went against tradition. This was extremely dangerous what these players and coach did, and it's amazing that they got away with it.
Scott Ellsworth is a professor at the University of Michigan and author of The Secret Game, which details the basketball game between North Carolina Central and the Duke University Medical School team.
They held the game on a Sunday morning on purpose because everyone, including the all-white members of Durham's police department, Durham, North Carolina's police department, were in church at the time. But if the police had shown up, there could have been an incident, people could have been shot, people certainly would have been arrested. Chances are people would have also lost their jobs. So this was a great chance they were taking to play a game of basketball.
Hall of Famer John McClendon was the North Carolina Central head coach. After learning directly from basketball's inventor James Naismith, McClendon, in an era of set shots and half-court offensive sets, introduced a style that even today would look modern.
John McClendon is the lost giant of basketball. There's no question about it. In the pantheon of the 3 or 4 most important figures in the history of the game, John McClendon is right there. He's the first one to find the modern game, this intense fast break, this full court pressure defense. He's the one who really brings, very high pace, intensive conditioning to basketball. He's ahead of everyone by about 30 years. And it's because he coached at small African-American colleges in an era when black colleges couldn't play in the NCAA tournament, couldn't play in the NIT. So very few people saw what he was doing, but those who did knew that he had hit upon something incredible. He was way ahead of his time. But more importantly, McClendon was somebody who believed in human dignity. He had no problems in terms of crossing the race line, and he took a great chance, but it had to be him, no question.
McClendon's pioneering didn't stop in North Carolina. He is the first African-American to coach a predominantly white professional team, as well as at a white university. Among the players on the Eagles, Henry Big Dog Thomas, who played football at the University of Toledo and was to play basketball for the Rockets as well before being drafted by the Navy.
Big Dog was an astonishing player, an amazing player, but Big Dog had grown up in Farrell, Pennsylvania. He had gone to an integrated school, and he was used to playing against whites. And so when many of his teammates were very nervous about playing the secret game, it was nothing new for Big Dog. But he was a terrific player at Toledo as well, too.
And there were actually 2 games played that day. The first, white versus black. The second, white and black on the same teams. And while the secret game was not well known until Ellsworth started writing about it in the 1990s, it had an impact on the civil rights movement.
There were activists who told me later on that the secret game helped give them courage to do the things they did during the civil rights movement. Another activist told me how they had to have a civil rights movement in their mind before they had one in the streets. Secret game was a part of that.
Nearly 80 years after the secret game, its impact is still felt. On Martin Luther King Jr. Day, St. Francis and Rossford's teams both wore "This game is no secret" warm-up shirts before their games, giving their coaches the opportunity to teach their teams a lesson bigger than hoops.
The big thing is when I started talking about this and the history of it, none of them knew. My African-American kids, my white kids, no one knew about this game. So it was neat to sit there and talk to them about it, and they couldn't really comprehend that, whites couldn't play against the African Americans back then, and so we've come a long way, but we're nowhere near where we need to. So it's a great learning lesson for everybody, and hopefully we can help just spread the word and just end racism.
It's just amazing to think how it feels like that was 200 years ago, but it wasn't that long ago. And, you know, our country's come a long way. And, you know, we're not nearly as far as we should be, but, you know, every day, hopefully we get a little bit closer to the way things should be. And we don't have to have secrets, and we don't have to do things like happened in the past.
Ultimately, while this is a sports story, it's also a story about people crossing barriers, taking chances to interact with people who don't oftentimes look like them, who certainly don't think like them. You know, our nation right now is extremely divided, and they crossed a much bigger divide than we're facing right now. So I think the story is very much relevant, still alive.
Brought to you locally by Dale Riggs Funeral Home. Funerals as unique as your life.